We picture the universe as a vast container of tiny, distinct particles snapping together. But physical existence begins as a unified, continuous field. If you examine the observable universe, 99.9% of it exists in a state of active, fluid differentiation. This is plasma. The hard, rigid objects we interact with every day are not the default state of reality. Matter is a highly localized 0.1% anomaly. Matter occurs only when this fluid, turbulent plasma achieves sufficient coherence to fold in on itself, freezing into a stable, self-repeating standing wave. The ability of this shape to hold its form is not an intrinsic property of the substance itself. It is dictated by a strict relational condition between opposing forces. An object is simply the physical expression of an exact mathematical address where fluid dynamics and containing boundaries permanently lock into phase. We can define that exact coordinate with the coherence metric. T equals the absolute value of E cross V divided by B cross omega. T does not measure how close a system is to an idealized target. It functions as a specific spatial and energetic address where physical conditions abruptly change. This metric calculates the precise impedance match between two orthogonal elements, the kinetic drive pushing outward and the structural tension holding it in. This geometric diagram maps the result of that balance. When the forces match, the system settles into an isotropic equilibrium, seen here as a cubo-octahedron, where all radial and edge vectors are completely equal. Any structure that persists, from a microscopic crystal to a massive star, exists solely because it has found the precise mathematical address where outward flow perfectly balances inward containment. To understand how this balance operates, we isolate the components. The numerator of the equation, E cross V, represents the active driving force of the system. The variable E defines the motive coupling scale, the dense energy eager to initiate movement. The variable V is the propagation velocity. It is the literal speed and direction of that energy actively pushing outward into space. Together, E cross V creates formative pressure. It is the kinetic drive of an expanding system. Operating against this outward drive is the denominator, B cross omega. B represents the stabilizing field strength, the rigid magnetic constraints attempting to box the energy in. Omega tracks the oscillatory rate of that containment, how rapidly the boundary pulses to absorb the internal flow. Multiplied together, B and omega produce containing tension. This is the structural constraint of the system. The metric is a direct ratio mapping internal kinetic drive, warring against its own structural boundaries. If the value of T is significantly greater than 1, the formative pressure overwhelms the containing boundary. The physical result is runaway flow. The system fragments, displaying chaotic kinetic activity with no structural integrity. Conversely, if T is far less than 1, the containing constraint is too strong. The structure overdamps the internal energy. The flow is crushed, resulting in rigidification, fossilized structures, and a total loss of kinetic response. The critical threshold sits exactly at T equals 1. At this precise address, formative drive and containing constraint interlock. Neither force overwhelms the other. When this specific impedance match is hit, the friction between flow and boundary disappears, and the system's energy expenditure collapses to near zero. What we interact with daily and call solid matter is simply the physical consequence of a local environment hitting and sustaining this exact mathematical address. If a single stable structure requires this exact balance, how do larger, complex biological or cosmic systems ever manage to grow? The answer lies in the recursive scaling law. To calculate the coherence of a larger system, we analyze the ratio of new formative flow over the existing containment structure. The stable structure from the first level becomes the rigid denominator for the next scale. A completely new, higher-order formative flow then enters this newly established container, acting as the numerator and testing the boundary. You cannot scale a system if the foundation is leaking. The prior level must achieve total phase lock before holding the pressure of the next scale. Structural complexity doesn't accumulate by simply stacking pieces. It is strictly nested, built on prior foundations that have already achieved a perfect T of 1. This torsional grammar, this exact mathematical requirement for balance, governs physical persistence across every measurable scale of magnitude. We observe this clearly at the microscopic scale. This image shows the cross-section of biological cells and nerve fibers. A cell membrane maintains a strict electrical potential of about 70 millivolts. This is biological plasma, arriving precisely at the address of T equals 1. The membrane functions because the formative pressure of sodium and potassium ions perfectly matches the containing structure of the lipid bilayer. Jump 14 orders of magnitude upward to the planetary scale, and the exact same mechanism appears in Earth's ionosphere. The extreme formative pressure of the solar wind slams into Earth's ambipolar electrostatic field. At the specific altitude where that ratio hits 1, a stable atmospheric container is forged. A microscopic biological membrane and a massive planetary atmosphere are functionally identical boundary architectures. They enforce the exact same coherence metric. At the macroscopic scale, we see this in spiral galaxies. Stars maintain flat orbital velocities, moving at the same speed regardless of their distance from the core, because the galaxy itself operates as a unified plasma vortex, resting near a T metric of 0.89. For decades, astrophysicists have inserted hypothetical dark matter into their equations to explain this stability. But this massive invisible weight is only required if you assume the galaxy is made of discrete particles. When you apply the coherence metric, the math resolves without dark matter. The galaxy's primary magnetic substrate naturally contains the formative plasma flow. In traditional engineering and physics, we assume that maintaining a large, complex structure requires a massive, continuous supply of energy. Under the grammar of persistence, high energy demand is actually a symptom of incoherence. It is the cost paid when a system fails to reach an impedance match, leaking effort as it fights its own boundaries. When the mathematical address is correct and the impedance perfectly matches, the friction of maintaining form vanishes and energy demand collapses. The universe operates on a unified relational grammar, and T equals 1 is the precise coordinate where it speaks form into physical existence.